Now, so far what we've looked at is a couple of rules. We looked at when you multiply, we're going to add the exponents together, and when we divide, we're going to subtract the exponents. This is our third rule. This is called the power to a power rule. So we have one power, or an exponent, raised to an additional exponent. So first of all, we're going to do it by definition so you can see what's happening here. So 4 means that we're going to multiply together something 4 times. So in this case, we're going to multiply 7 cubed together 4 times. Whoops, the last one should be a 3. Now we know from our previous rule, that first rule, when you multiply like this, as long as these are the same bases, all you do is you add the exponents together. So this actually equals 7, 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, or in other words, 7 to the power of 12. Now look at the original question here, and then look at the answer, and see if you can make that connection, because then it asks you what is the quick way of finding this answer. And the quick way of finding this answer is just to multiply these two terms together. So when we have a power raised to a power, then we're just going to multiply these two powers together to give us our answer like this. Now there's a few questions to support this as well, so let's take a look at those. So this I can see as a power raised to an additional power, so I'm just going to multiply the two powers together, and then 4 times 2 is just 8, and that's all we need to do. Now for the second one, I've actually got a couple of things here. I can see I've got some parentheses here, and I've got some multiplication. So order of operations, I'm going to do the parentheses first. So this is actually a power to a power question. So I'm going to multiply these together. So 4 times 3 is 12. And then now I'm going to work out what happens when I multiply. Now when I multiply, that's when I add the exponents together. So 12 plus 5 is just 17. Now we can have more than one power to a power. We can have a power to an additional power. So for this question here, I'm going to multiply all these together. So 2 times 2 times 4 is 16, so the answer is 2 to the 16. Now somebody in class actually worked out what 2 squared is. They said 2 squared is 4, and then they said power to a power, 2 times 4 is 8. So they also came up with an answer of 4 to the power of 8. And that's certainly a true answer as well. And you could have gone further than that as well. You could have said 2 squared is 4, 4 squared is 16, and then we got 16 to the power of 4. In general, we want the smallest number as part of our answer though. So I would rather you multiply all 3 powers together for that question. Same idea with this one, power to a power to a power. 3 times 3 times 2 is 18, so our answer is just 3 to the 18. Or if you had worked this out, you could say it's 27 to the power of 6. 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 cubed is 27, but I would prefer this answer here. And for this one here, we've also got a couple of things as well. I'm multiplying this, but this is an exponent first, so I've got to do the power to the power rule first because of PEMDAS. So as it's power to a power, I'm going to multiply this. So 7 times 2 is 14. Now I'm multiplying, so I'm going to add these together. So 2 plus 14 gives me 16. If we have one that's more complicated than that still, I can still say I've got parentheses here with exponents, so the PE of PEMDAS I'm going to work on first. Power to a power, I'm going to multiply those together, so 4 times 2. Power to a power, 2 times 5 is 10. And then now I can do the multiplication, so when I multiply I'm going to add these together. So a to the power of 18. And that's our first little ones practiced. Now there is an extension to that rule as well. So if I have a term inside as well, it's like a number here, rather than just 8 to the 6 cubed, then what this means, I'm going to do 2a to the 6 times 2a to the 6 times 2a to the 6. And then when we did this before, we multiplied numbers first. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. a to the 6 times a to the 6 times a to the 6. When you multiply, you add the exponents, so 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18. And our answer is 8a to the 18. Now, a lot of people get this question wrong because they see the power to the power rule question here and go, oh, 6 times 3 is 18, therefore the answer is 2a to the 18. So what we're actually doing here is noticing we're cubing everything. So actually what we're doing here is we're doing 2 cubed and then a to the 6 cubed. So when we have more than one term inside the parentheses, make sure you split those up, make sure you cube everything. And that's the quick way of doing that question, making sure you do the power for every term inside the parentheses. So if we're doing this question, I'm going to do 2 to the power of 4, and I'm going to do x squared to the power of 4. So there is a power button on your calculator. If you're not familiar with what it is, just do 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Make sure you do it 4 times. So 2 to the 4 is 16. Power to a power, we're just going to multiply, and that's actually just our answer. This one, we're going to make sure we square everything, so 4 squared, 4 times 4, and we're also going to do g to the 5 squared as well. So 4 squared is also 16, 4 times 4. Power to a power, we're going to multiply, and we're done with that question too. Scroll up a little bit so we can see a little bit easier. Everything to the power of 4, so 3 to the power of 4, and t to the power of 4. So 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is 81. And then t to the 4 is actually just t to the 4. Sometimes the simple questions confuse people. Remember, if there is no exponent, we could also put 1 there, and then 1 times 4 is still 4. So another reason why we can actually work out that answer. If we get a horrible question like this, and I think this might be the one where I have my hint, then we could work out the first part of the question, work out the second part of the question, and then we can go ahead and simplify. So let's try and do that. So 2 cubed is 8. C squared cubed, multiply them together, power to a power, power of 6. Do the same for this one. 3 to the power of 4, we just had that a second ago, so I'm going to steal that one there. Power to a power, multiply these together, so 5 times 4 is 20. And now we're going to multiply our two answers together. So 8 times 81 is 648. C to the 6 times c to the 20. We're multiplying, so we're going to add those two exponents. So 6 plus 20 is 26. Now there are some even more complicated ones down here. So we'll finish off by looking at those. And essentially it's the same idea. We've got to do this in 2 parts. Work out this one, work out this one, and then multiply them together. So 2 to the power of 5 first on your calculator, 32. Power to a power, we're going to multiply these, so a to the 15th. And then we're going to times this by this one, so 3 cubed is 27. A cubed is just a cubed. And b squared cubed, power to a power, multiplied together, gives us 6. Then we've got to work out what this is multiplied together. So 32 times 27 is 864. We got a's and a's, so we can combine these. As we're multiplying, we're going to add these together. So 15 plus 3 is 18. And then we just add b to the 6 on the end here. We can do the same with this one. So 6 cubed is 216. M cubed, n cubed. And then for this one it's squared. So 5 squared is 25. And 3 to the power of 2 is going to give us 6 because we're multiplying because it's power to a power rule again. Now we've got to actually multiply that. So 216 times 25 is 5400. M to the 3 times by m to the 6. Add the exponents because we're multiplying. M to the 9, and then there's n to the 3. So we're making sure that we've got our numbers first, letters second, and also in alphabetical order. And you can see we can get rather crazy when we do these questions. So if I had one like this, I could say 2 squared is 4, and then make sure I distribute the 4 throughout, and the same with that one. Probably a little longer than we're going to do, but if you fancied a challenge, you could try that question too.